Hi friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Unwanted Parenting Advice. Today we're going to be talking all about parent work and mother work and how sometimes raising kids can be all joy and no fun. So if you find yourself saying, I love my kids, but, then this is the episode for you. I'm Olivia and get ready because here comes some unwanted parenting advice. Parenting, man, it's a lot of work. Like, we know before we become parents that we're going to be tired, but nothing can actually prepare you for the grind of it. There's nothing quite like the physical and emotional and brain exhaustion that comes at the end of the day with kids, if there is an end to the day with kids, because we know that parent work is on a 24-hour cycle, and we often have to get up in the night, and we just keep going until you're this shell of a person standing in your kitchen eating cold French fries off of your children's plate while you watch them try to murder each other because one of them is copying the other. You just stand there with a glass of coffee in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. Or at least that's a glimpse for y'all to have into what parenting looks like in my household. But this is exactly why I hear so many clients saying things like, I love my kids, but sometimes I lock myself in the bathroom and cry because I need to get away from them. Or sometimes I have fantasies about running away and moving to Australia. Or this one is one that I personally had, hoping that I will get sick enough that I'm admitted to the hospital that I can just sort of hang out there a bit. And this actually happened to me recently when I had a problem with my gallbladder and I was admitted to the hospital for 4 days. And I was anxious to get out of there by day 4, but there was a woman who I was sharing a room with who came in one night, and then in the morning they expected her to go home. And she was so upset. She slept the entire time that we were there, and then her husband came to pick her up, and the nurses was like, why are you crying? Like, this is exciting. You get to go home to your young children. And I thought, oh, I know why she's crying. She's crying because for the first time in how many years, she's had a full night's sleep that is completely uninterrupted, and she's had her meals brought to her and people who are caring for her. And she doesn't want to go back. She's not ready to go back to that quite yet. And yet, despite all of this, we love our kids so much. I mean, mostly we love our kids when they're sleeping, but like in general, yeah, when we think about our kids, we love them. Like, we do anything for them. And the reason for this is because the work of parenting and all the day-to-day that comes with keeping them alive and raising good citizens is really different from the relationship that we have with our children, or the love that we have for our children. And this concept is not mine, this idea that there's the relationship with our children versus the work of parenting. There's actually quite a lot of academics who write on this. But I've put a lot of thought into breaking down what this concept of parent work really is, just to get a sense of how much we are doing to raise our kids these days. Because often when people talk about it, they just lump parent work into one big category, but actually parent work is a bunch of different types of work, and I've chunked them out into about 6 different types. The first is reproductive work, or chores. This is all of the physical tasks, the domestic work, the household maintenance that's required to keep our kids safe and clean and fed. So this is all the diaper changing, the endless meal preparation that comes with kids, doing the laundry, sorting through winter, summer clothes, staying up all night trying to feed those kids, all of that kind of stuff, the stuff we do over and over and over again. The second bucket of work is the emotional work, so the kissing boo-boos work that we do with our little ones. This is all the care work that's required to support our kids with their emotional development. All the empathy building stuff, like holding them when they cry, all the resiliency building stuff, like helping them recover from failure, the fun stuff too, like celebrating their successes. And this also includes your own emotional work, because all of the stress and the worrying that we do about our kids counts in this bucket as well. So if you've ever stayed up at night worrying about your little ones, or if you've done a bunch of like research into how you're ever going to potty train them, that goes in this bucket here as well. Moral development work, otherwise known as don't raise a jerk. This is all of the disciplining, the rule setting, the holding our children into accountability when they step out of line. All of that goes in this bucket. So when you're helping your kids learn inner discipline, not to whine to get what they want, how to show respect for themselves and for others, following through on their commitments, keeping their hands to themselves, that's a big one, and how to say sorry when they screw up. That's all a big piece of the moral development. Life skills is another really big one. How to clean up after yourself. We need to teach our kids that. Actually, it's been my greatest joy to have my kids learn that, even though we're only about 40% of the way there, 12 years in. Because this is all the work that we do to help our children turn into independent adults. So ideally, they can live without us, away from us, in their own messy space. So we need to teach them how to cook. We need to teach them how to get passing grades in school, how to remember their mittens. Oh my goodness, the mittens. Washing their hands, eat vegetables, all of those life skills that we all need. And often this work can involve spending a fortune, a small fortune, on special classes or activities, not to mention all of the transportation that it takes to get them to their music classes, their sports, their whatever it is that your kids do. Social skills work, right? We need to teach our kids how they make friends. This is a really important process for them to learn how to get along with others. So we have to assist them in building friendships and then teach them how to maintain friendships. So teaching them how to resolve conflict with their peers, how to handle a breakup, because eventually they start to have romantic relationships, how to live harmoniously with others, particularly if you are really different. It's trying to demonstrate and convey that constant negotiation between knowing how to set clear boundaries with others and when you need to put your own needs aside or make them secondary for the sake of the larger group. And then finally, we have organizational work, which is my personal nemesis. This is the being a personal assistant, right? We have to teach our kids how to do that stuff. So this is all of the managerial, all the secretarial work that is required by parents, remembering how much they weigh. So if you're at the doctor and the doctor wants to know how much of a prescription to give them, you have to keep that information in your mind. Booking other dental appointments, remembering if you have benefits, is it every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, is it once a year? The endless paperwork that comes home from school at the beginning of the year and just all the time, keeping on top of all of those different pieces. This type of work requires calendar administration and ongoing project management, which is maybe why I struggle with it so much. And I'm hoping that it's kind of obvious, even in my own storytelling, that it's not reasonable to expect parents to be good at or to love all of these different buckets of work. We would never expect somebody who is hired into an organization to be told, great, welcome to the team, you are going to be the HR specialist, you're going to be doing strategic planning at a senior level, you're going to be a personal assistant, you also need to do all the catering, so hope that's good, I hope you have all those skills. No, of course not. We would never expect that. And we would never tell people they need to love every minute, because if they sort of say, like, this is really tough, or I'm finding this really hard, or sometimes I don't love it, that they would be labeled a bad employee by other people at the organization. Like, that is bananas. We would never ask people to do that. We have all sorts of, employment laws to prevent people from falling into those sorts of situations. So hear this. It is totally fine, it is totally normal, and it is totally okay not to love every aspect of parenting work. It is not an indication of how much you love your kids or how awesome a job you are doing at raising them. They are not linked. I find reproductive work, that ongoing chores, the ongoing meal preparation, I find the organizational work of parenting painfully boring and unstimulating. I don't like it. My memory isn't that great. The thought of spending hours at the park walking behind my kids so they don't fall makes me feel totally sick to my stomach. It's boring. I don't love that work. 3-year-olds are super not my jam, because it's a lot of doing the same thing over and over and trying to remember all the things that they need to do in a day. But the life skills work, the moral development work in particular, the emotional work, I love it. I love doing that work with my kids. There is nothing more rewarding for me than helping my kids recover from a loss, or how to stand up for themselves and take responsibility when they screw up. We're not afraid to talk about things like sexual consent, to talk about racism. It's really important to me to have white kids to be talking about these things, to have boys to be talking about consent. Those are some of the conversations that are free flow in our household, because that's the type of work that I really love. So I really hope that you will spend some time thinking about what type of parent work you love and that you're great at, and what type of parent work you don't love and that you're not as great at, and to give yourself permission to either let some stuff go, ideally pass it off to somebody else, but I know that's not always possible, to outsource it, to give yourself permission to hate it, to say, I don't love this piece, it's not my favorite. But look over here, I'm really great at some of these buckets of work. Ideally, if you are partnered or have partners, you are all negotiating what strengths you bring to the parenting work, which is always ideal, but I know that doesn't always happen. And if you want a little help around this, I've got some really cool exercises, so feel free to contact me. My email's below, website's below, sign up for my mailing list. You'll get lots of cool information on that. And subscribe if you like this video, because every week we are back staying vigilant against unwanted parenting advice. Thanks for watching.